Hey guys, welcome to Learn Today IGCSE. This video is a tutorial on Physics Paper 4 Theory, Variant 4.2 from May-June 2026 examinations. Question 1 Part A, Figure 1.1 shows a speed time graph for a car journey. This is a question from Chapter 1.2 Motion. Under this topic, you will come across two types of graph. The first one is a distance time graph, where the gradient of the graph represents your speed. And the second type of graph is a speed time graph, where the gradient of the graph represents acceleration. So this is a speed time graph. This means that the gradient of the graph represents acceleration. As you can see, this part of the graph shows a straight line indicating that your gradient is constant. And from B to C, your graph curves. So this means that your gradient is no longer constant because this is no longer a straight line. When you draw a tangent, you can see that the steepness is decreasing, whereby it is getting flatter. So this means that your gradient is decreasing. From C to D, you have a horizontal flat line indicating your gradient is 0. And then again from D to E, we can see that the graph curves. This means that your gradient is no longer constant because you do not see a straight line. And when you draw a tangent, you can see that the steepness of the tangent is increasing. Imagine steepness as you walking up a hill. You're walking up hill A and you're walking up hill B. And it is more difficult for you to walk up hill B because it is steeper. So this means that as you move from hill A to hill B, it gets more difficult to climb up the hill, meaning that your gradient is increasing because your steepness is increasing. And as I mentioned previously, your gradient represents acceleration. So A to B is constant gradient. Gradient is acceleration. So A to B is constant acceleration. B to C is acceleration is decreasing. In another word, deceleration. C to D, gradient is 0, so acceleration is 0. D to E, your gradient is increasing. That means your acceleration is increasing. But because your speed is decreasing from D to E, we don't say it as acceleration. We say your deceleration is increasing. Alright, let's try the question now that we have understood the graph. A and B is constant acceleration. From C to D, 0 acceleration, which also means constant speed, and D to E would be deceleration is increasing. Moving on to question part 2. Calculate the distance traveled between time 0 and time 18 seconds. When you are asked to calculate distance traveled for a speed time graph, this means that you are going to look for the area below the graph between time 0 and time 18 seconds, which is in this region. And this region here is a shape of a triangle. So we're going to calculate the area by the formula of triangle 1/2 multiplied base, which is 18, multiply its height, which is 14, which is 126 meters. Converting this into two significant figures would be 130, and your unit has been given to you. Next question, part B. Velocity is a vector quantity. You have scalar quantity and vector quantity. If you look into your course specification, make sure you're looking at the right syllabus, which is 2026 to 2028. You will see that under Chapter 1, Physical Quantities and Measurement of Techniques, you are to know of scalar quantity and vector quantity. And these are the quantities that you should know about. Make sure you remember them. Question B, part 1. Complete the sentence. A vector quantity has magnitude and direction, whereas a scalar quantity only has magnitude. Part 2. Draw a line under each of the quantities in the list that is a vector quantity. That would be acceleration, electric field strength, and weight. The rest of these are all scalar quantity. Next, moving on to question 2, part A. A satellite is in a circular orbit around the Earth. Question part 1. State the direction of the force acting on the satellite. This is a question from Chapter 1.5 Forces, and you will learn that when an object moves in a circular orbit, this is due to its centripetal force that is pulling it towards the center. So the direction of the force acting on the satellite would be towards the center of the orbit. Next, part 2. A rocket is used to carry the satellite into space. The initial mass of the rocket and satellite is 1.5 times 10 to the power of 4 kilograms. The initial force provided by the rocket is 1.9 times 10 to the power of 5 newtons. Calculate the initial acceleration for the rocket. When you are given with mass and force and you are asked for acceleration, the formula to be used here would be your force equals to mass times acceleration, which is Newton's famous second law. Now first, let's understand the question. It says here that the initial force provided is 1.9 times 10 to the power of 5 Newton. However, we can't substitute that into our formula because there are two different types of force acting on the rocket and satellite. The initial force provided by the rocket is 1.9 times 10 to the power of 5 newtons, and this act upwards. However, you should not forget that there is another force acting on the rocket here, and that would be the force that pulls the rocket downwards. And that force here is your weight. And the weight would be the entire mass of the rocket and satellite multiplied by gravitational acceleration, which is 9.8. So the weight of the rocket and satellite is 1.47 times 10 to the power of 5 newtons. So now the force required to accelerate the rocket would be upwards, because the force upwards is bigger than the force downwards. This means that your rocket will move upwards. And this is what you call as a resultant force. So the force here would be your resultant force being the force upwards minus the force downwards, which is 43,000 newtons. And to accelerate the rocket, which contains both the rocket and the satellite, has a total mass of 1.5 times 10 to the power of 4 kilograms. Now we can just rearrange our formula to get an acceleration of 2.8666 in two significant figures would be 2.9, and the unit has been given to you, which is meters per second square. Next question, part B. A large balloon filled with helium floats in the Earth's atmosphere. Explain in terms of particles how the helium gas exerts a pressure on the inside of the balloon. This is a question testing you on chapter 2.1. Now, helium is a gas, and particles in gas can move freely. So this means that the particles constantly collide with each other and collides with the walls of the balloon. And whenever the particle collides with the inner wall surface, it creates a force on the surface area of the balloon. So the collisions with walls creates force per unit area exerting pressure, because the formula states that force applied per unit area is what gives you pressure. Next question, part 2. The temperature of the air at the balloon's highest point above Earth is 228 Kelvin. Determine in degrees Celsius the temperature of the air at this height. Now make sure you remember all formulas for physics, as physics is highly calculation based. Under chapter 2, there are few formulas that you have to remember. And this is not exactly formula, but it's more of a unit conversion, where temperature in Kelvin is equal to temperature in degrees Celsius plus 273. So the temperature in Kelvin is 228, and we are looking for temperature in degrees Celsius. So just rearranging this formula would give us negative 45, and the unit is degrees Celsius. Next, question 3. Figure 3.1 shows an electric shower. The temperature of water as it enters the shower is 15 degrees Celsius. The water is heated in the shower. The water leaves the shower at a temperature of 38 degrees Celsius. The density of water is 1000 kilograms per meter cube. The specific heat capacity is 4200. Part 1 of the question, the water flows through the shower at a rate of 0.0045 meter cubes per 1 minute. Show that the mass of water that leaves the shower in 4 minutes is 18 kilograms. Alright, let's first list down all the information that we have. So we have change of temperature, density, and specific heat capacity, and you're also given with the rate of flow. You are asked to look for mass. One of the formula that we can use here would be density and the rate, which contains volume, because the formula of density is mass over volume. And we have been given that the volume of water flow in 1 minute is 0.0045. So this means that in 4 minutes would be a total of 0.018 meter cube. The density of water has been given, which is 1000. So rearranging the formula would give you 18 kilograms. So you have proven that the mass of water in 4 minutes is 18 kilograms. Next question, part 2. Calculate the energy required to increase the temperature of 18 kilograms of water from 15 to 38 degrees Celsius. As mentioned previously, some of the formula that will be needed in chapter 2 is the change of energy equal to mass times specific heat capacity times temperature change. So the mass has been calculated, which is 18 kilograms. Your specific heat capacity is 4200 joules per kilograms degrees Celsius, and the temperature changes from 15 to 38. which is 23 degrees Celsius. Make sure all the units are in standard units. Everything is in kilogram and everything is in degrees Celsius, leaving you with the unit of joules. And the energy here is approximately 1.8 times 10 to the power of 6. The unit has been given to you. Next, part 3, it says that the energy in 3a part 2 is transferred to the water in 4 minutes. Calculate the power transferred to the water. So always list down the quantities that you have, and then let's determine which formula is going to be applied here. So the formula related to power, energy and time is power equals to energy divided by time. So the energy here is 1.8 times 10 to the power of 6 joules. However, the time given here is in minutes. In order for you to use this formula, you have to make sure that the time you use is in seconds. So that will be 4 minutes multiplied 60 seconds, giving you a total of 240 seconds. And your power will be 7,500. This is in two significant figures, and the unit has been given to you, which is in watts. Next question, part B. At another time, the temperature of the water leaving the shower is higher. The power supplied to the water remains constant. Suggest one reason for this increase in temperature. Alright, specific heat capacity is how much of energy is being supplied to increase the temperature of the object by 1 degree Celsius. So if the final temperature is higher, this means that it has gained more energy. But it says here that the power supplied remain constant. So this doesn't mean that we have supplied more energy. It could be that the volume of water decreased, therefore the same amount of energy has now given you a higher change of temperature. Next, question 4a, define impulse in words. Remember to always look into your course specification if you need for definition. It states that you can define impulse as force times time, which comes from the equation. So just by writing its formula, you will be able to get 1 mark. Next question, part B. A student jumps from the top of a low wall to the ground. The mass of the student is 55 kilograms. As the student reaches the ground, her speed is 4.6 meters per second. So the speed of the student as she reaches the ground is 4.6 meters per second, and the student stops moving 0.95 seconds after her feet first touch the ground. So her final velocity is 0 meters per second, and to reach this, it took her 0.95 seconds. Alright, we are asked to calculate the resultant force exerted on the student as she stops moving. The formula to calculate resultant force is the change of momentum over time. So let's substitute all the value that we have, giving you 266 newtons. In two significant figures, that would be 270. The unit for force newtons has been given to you. Now question part 2. As the student lands, she bends her knees. Explain how this prevents the student from being injured. Use ideas of force, momentum, and time in your answer. Now, using the formula of impulse, when you land bending your knees, you are going to increase the time taken for you to reach 0. So if your time taken is increased, you will be able to decrease the force applied, as force and time is inversely proportional. However, remember that the momentum here will not change because the mass of the student remains the same, and its initial velocity and final velocity is not affected when she bends her knees. So make sure you describe all force, time, and momentum to gain a full 3 marks. Next question, part 3. Another student stands on the ground. The area in contact with the ground is 380 centimeters squares. The weight of the student is 530 Newton. You are asked to calculate the pressure exerted by the student on the ground. Make sure you know the formula to calculate pressure is force over area. And the force being applied here is 530 newtons. And the area is 380 cm square, giving you 1.39. In two significant figures, that would be 1.4. The unit is newtons over cm square. Next, question 5, part A. On a hot day, a student wets his skin with cold water. The water on the student's skin evaporates. Explain, in terms of particles, why the student's skin temperature decreases. Now remember, as evaporation takes place, the water particles which has a higher kinetic energy will break and leave the surface. This means that the water particles which are left behind, which are not evaporated, has low amount of energy. So this means that as evaporation occurs, the liquid cools down because the energetic particles will escape from the surface, therefore the temperature reduces. Now the student's skin is now in contact with the evaporating liquid, and the temperature of the skin will cool down. So what happens is the thermal energy from the skin now will be transferred into the evaporating liquid because there are more energy stored in the skin compared to the evaporating liquid. Next question, part B. Figure 5.1 shows wet clothes on a line in the open air. Water evaporates from the clothes. State two factors which affect the rate of evaporation of the water, and that could be temperature, surface area of the liquid, or air movement.